The old stone chapel stood silent under a bruised sky, its stained glass windows dimming as twilight crept in. Inside, Father Thomas coughed violently into a handkerchief, the white fabric blooming crimson. His once strong frame was now gaunt, his skin papery and pale. The doctor had said it wouldn't be long now. At his feet, a massive, shaggy dog, Brutus, a mix of wolfhound and something unnameable, lifted his head, dark eyes fixed on his master. The dog had been with him for 12 years, through bitter winters and quiet springs, through sermons delivered to empty pews and whispered prayers in the dead of night. Brutus whined softly, pressing his wet nose against Thomas's trembling hand. The priest smiled, running his fingers through the coarse fur. "Still here, old friend?" he murmured. "Even now?" The dog's tail thumped once, a promise. Then the coughing seized Thomas again, worse this time, his body racked with pain. When it passed, he slumped back in his chair, breath ragged. He knew what was coming, and yet as he looked into Brutus's eyes, those deep, knowing eyes, he felt a strange peace, but peace wouldn't last, because outside the wind howled like a thing alive, and the shadows in the corners of the chapel seemed to shift when no one was looking. Part 2. The Unseen Visitor. That night Thomas dreamed of fire. Flames licked at the edges of his vision, consuming the pews, the crucifix above the altar, the very walls of his sanctuary. In the dream, Brutus stood between him and the inferno, growling at something Thomas couldn't see. Then the dog turned, baring his teeth, not at the fire, but at him. Thomas woke with a gasp. The chapel was freezing. Frost painted the windows, in delicate, cruel patterns, though it was only autumn. Brutus was gone. "Brutus," Thomas called, his voice thin. No answering bark, no scrape of claws on stone. Then a sound, a whisper just beyond the door leading to the sacristy. "Thomas." His blood turned to ice. That wasn't Brutus. That wasn't human. The door creaked open on its own. Darkness yawned beyond, and then, from the shadows, a pair of yellow eyes gleamed. Part 3. The Bargain. The thing that stepped into the chapel was not a man. It wore the shape of one, tall, draped in a priest's cassock, but its skin was too smooth, its smile too wide. Its eyes were the color of spoiled milk. "Father Thomas," it said, its voice like dry leaves crumbling. "You've been expecting me." Thomas's heart hammered. He had performed last rites 100 times, had stood at deathbeds and gravesides. But this was different. Brutus burst into the chapel then, snarling, his fur bristling. He planted himself between Thomas and the thing, lips peeled back in a silent warning. The creature laughed. "Loyal beast, but he cannot stop what's coming." Thomas swallowed. "What do you want?" The thing tilted its head. "A trade, your soul, or his." Brutus growled louder. Thomas's hands shook. "No!" The thing smiled. "Then you both burn." And with a snap of its fingers, the chapel erupted in flames. Part 4. The Choice. Smoke choked the air. Thomas stumbled back, clutching his chest. Brutus barked frantically, trying to drag him toward the door, but the fire was everywhere. The false priest watched, amused. "Time to choose, Father." Thomas looked at Brutus, his companion, his protector, the dog who had stood by him when no one else had. He closed his eyes and made his decision. Part 5. The Last Faithful Act. Thomas lunged, not toward the door, but at the creature. He grabbed the silver crucifix from the altar and pressed it against the thing's chest. It screamed. The flames roared higher. Brutus seized Thomas's sleeve, pulling him toward the exit as the false priest writhed, its form melting like wax. They burst into the cold night, just as the chapel collapsed. Behind them, Thomas fell to his knees, gasping. Brutus licked his face, whining, but when Thomas looked into the dog's eyes, he saw something new, something grateful. And then Brutus laid down beside him, his breathing slowing. Thomas realized, with a sob, what had happened. The bargain had been made, just not the one the creature intended. As the first light of dawn touched the ruins, Thomas held his old friend close and whispered his final prayer.